the most expensive AI you currently rent just sat the same exam as the cheapest computer I own. In one of the other episodes, I built a 15-task test, verifiable answers, created by deterministic Python, no AI judging AI, and gave it to the smallest models that fit in an 8 GB laptop. The best of them scored 87%. The one that runs fastest scored 80. This week, Anthropic shipped Claude Fable 5, the first Mythos class model the public can touch, and until June 22nd, it's included free on the paid plan. So while the window's open, Fable sat my exam. Same 15 tasks, same grader, not one line rewritten. Here's a report card, and here's what every correct answer actually costs. Quick refresher on the rules, because they're the whole point. Every task in this exam has an answer a script can check, a number, a letter, a JSON shape, or a code that has to pass real test cases. The grader is the same deterministic Python from episode 4. It extracts the model's final answer and compares. No human vibes, no language model marking another language model's homework. If the function returns true, the point counts. If not, it doesn't. It's that simple. That's it. The repo is in the description, so you can rerun every grade I'm about to show you. 4 math word problems, 3 reasoning puzzles, 4 coding tasks, 3 formatting tasks, 1 extraction task, 15 points on the board. Capturing Fable's answers fairly took some care, so here's the protocol. Each task went to a completely fresh, isolated session, a cold start with no memory, no tools, no file access, and crucially, no way to see the other answer key or this channel's repo. 1 question in, 1 question out, 30 times, 15 tasks, 2 independent passes to check the answers are stable and not just a lucky sample. One honest difference from episode 4 is that the locals ran at temperature 0 through Olama. The chat plan gives me no temperature dial, which is exactly why the second pass exists. Both passes came back. 28 of the 30 replies were word for word identical, the graded outcome identical on every single task. Now the report card itself. Episode 4's local models, the 3 billion parameter one, scored 12 out of 15. The 8 billion, the smartest thing my little rig could actually serve, got 13. Claude Fable 5, 15 out of 15. A perfect score. The first model through this exam that didn't drop a single point, and it never looked uncomfortable. The longest it took on any task was about 15 seconds, and most answers came back in 5. I'm not charting that speed against a locals token per second, because the capture path included startup overhead, and it wouldn't be fair to the other side. But the accuracy column is apples to apples, same exam, same grader, 80, 87, 100. Break the scores down by task type, and the whole story collapses into one column. Reasoning, both the 8 GB and Fable, perfect. Code, both perfect, all 4 functions every test case. Formatting and extraction, perfect again, both sides. The entire gap between a free local model and the most expensive API on the market lives in the math word problems. The 8 GB got half of those, the 3 GB got 1 in 4, Fable got all of them. So the frontier model isn't broadly smarter on agent chores on 11 of these 15 tasks. The cheat box is literally indistinguishable. It's specifically better at the small things models are notoriously bad at, careful arithmetic. Look at one of those math tasks up close and you'll see why this matters for real workloads. The question, a server handles 1,250 requests submitted. How many in 8 hours? The Fable said 6,000, correct. The 3 GB, the same model that happily ran 2 agents at once back in episode 3, confidently said 10,008. The 3 GB, the same model that happily ran 2 agents at once back in episode 3, confidently said 10,800. Not close, off by a factor of 55. Now imagine that model summarizing your monitoring dashboard, or your invoices, or your token bill. That's the failure model you're signing up for at the cheap end, and it's invisible until you grade it. Counting agents was episode 3. Counting correctly is this one. Before the money part, one grading story I owe you, because this channel's promise is that the methodology survives daylight. My capture tooling stamps a little summary line onto some replies. Wrapper text, not the model's answer. On exactly one task, that stamp contained the word total, which my grader treats as an answer queue, and it flipped a grade the model's own task had passed. So I ran that task 4 separate times. All 4 replies worked the problem and landed on the same number, 3,600. Correct. The data file stores every reply graded both raw and cleaned. The artifact is documented, and the score you saw stands. When a grade looks weird, you rerun it. That's the job. Here's where the economics gets interesting. What did Fable's perfect score cost? At the launch API prices, $10 per million tokens in, 50 out. This entire 15 task exam comes to roughly 2 cents. Estimated tokens, published prices, modeled and labeled as in such in the data file. 2 cents for a perfect score sounds like the cheapest genius ever hired. and for 15 short tasks, it genuinely is. The 8 gigabytes electricity for the same exam, about 2/100ths of a cent. Both numbers are tiny. Neither number matters until you stop running 15 tasks and start running an agent that works around the clock. Then the ratio is the only thing that matters. Per 1,000 correct answers, the gap stops looking cute. Fable had API rates, about $1.30 per 1,000 correct. The 8 gigabyte on my wall socket, about a cent and a half. Same grader, same tasks, roughly 94 times more expensive per right answer, and against a 3 gigabyte, it's more like 650 times. Model on both sides, the basis is in the data file. And remember episode 1, an always-on cloud agent already penciled out the $7,200 a year on last season's prices. And episode 5 showed the Frontier tier just doubled. This ratio is exactly how the bill happens, one harmless-looking correct answer at a time. So which tasks actually need the $10 brain? On this exam, 12 of the 15, most of the agent's daily grind. The cheapest model I own already passes. Reasoning, code, formatting, extraction. Solve problems at the free end. The Frontier Premium buys you exactly 3 tasks, and all 3 are arithmetic. That's a surprisingly narrow moat, and there are boring ways around it. Hand the small model a calculator tool, or root anything with numbers somewhere smarter, which is precisely the kind of architecture question this channel exists to measure, rather than vibe about. The expensive model is better. That was never the question. The question is, better at what and at what price? My verdict after grading all of it, it stays boring and stays a portfolio. If a task is verifiable, repetitive, and a wrong answer is cheap to catch, run it local, own the workhorse, pay in pennies of electricity. If a task is one where a single careful correct answer is worth real money, Frontier, no hesitation, 2 cents for a perfect score is the bargain of the season. What you should not do is pay Frontier prices for the 12 tasks the free model already aces, or trust the free model with the 3 provably flunks. The exam just drew you the routing table. Most hype cycles ask you to pick a side. The data says pick per task. And that routing table sets up the next measurement perfectly. Renting intelligence by the token or owning it by the wad, there's a crossover point. A monthly token volume where the cheap box beats the API on $4. And that routing table sets up the next measurement perfectly. Renting intelligence by the token or owning it by the wad, there's a crossover point. A monthly token volume where the cheap box beats the API on pure dollars. Episode 2 found it for one workload at last year's prices. Everything has changed since. New prices, free tiers, faster runtimes, and a Frontier that costs double. So next episode, I'm measuring the break even from scratch. My rig versus hosted endpoints, same prompts, real latencies, full cost curves, and I'll tell you exactly the monthly volume where self-hosting starts printing money. Benchmark codes in the description as always. If you want the number 1 in the lands, subscribed. This has been the Validation Set. See you in the next one.